Are you able to hear me? Yeah. So we have been discussing on the issues with respect to the different kinds of fundamental properties that make Python to get identified in the markets very specifically. Okay. Anyhow, we'll see all those particular aspects very practically as we are going on. Let's not worry about it. We have a great lot of journey to really take care and start moving on. That will really give us a great lot of experience. Let us not worry. Now, let us just try to look into the operational features what Python fundamentally tries to provide us. Now, it's really exaggeration if I can say that all the operational features we can just make it in one single slide and one single session, but technically we can put something. The first thing where Python looks very great is it fundamentally supports functional programming model, which is the buzzword of the current markets. Be very, very clear about that. Okay. So it technically is a language that has all the different kinds of approaches. But you should always understand it is having the ability, to operate, it is having the ability to operate with the criteria and composition of functional programming model. So whenever you deal with your criteria of your Python to the next generation programming that is expected for data science and big data like fields, Python looks more suitable because of its functional programming features. So what is exactly meant by functional programming? Now, I can definitely say that that is one discussion what we are going to have separately with a very detailed composition at some stage within the course. Let us not worry about that immediately. Okay. So what is exactly functional programming aspect looks like? Let us first start with programming of Python. Then functional programming is something you can start understanding at later stages. Now, the second fundamental feature your Python can definitely provide you is it will support you with structured programming models directly. Means you can do the programming with the data collections. Either they are structured data, either it is structured data or it is unstructured data. Put the data into a very proper consolidation by its collection. So whenever you try to move on through the process, you need to just understand the construct and composition that really happens with respect to the structured programming style. Okay. So if you can go back to your experience, if you are a C language programmer, now upon the C language environment, whenever you want to keep some heterogeneous amount of data together, and then you want to work with it, then technologically you are operating by designing your own structures, and then you're going through the constructs. So that same kind of similar experience you can have with your Python also once again. And not only that, it is also going to provide you a flavor of object orientation. Means everything you speak in object orientation, like the creation of the classes, methods, and attribute declarations, private scope, your public scope implementations. You speak seriously on your criterion composition of your methods and overloading, the concept of the constructors, polymorphism, everything, including inheritance, interfacing, everything you speak in object orientation, you can achieve through your Python once again. Means try to understand what I'm trying to speak. Functional programming models are not new. If you are a student who has done in your colleges some language called as Fortran, okay, which was one of the language I do remember every mechanical engineer used to do long back in their engineering career. If you have been working on Fortran someday in your life, then technically you could have definitely operated with the criteria and composition of your functional programming approach. The same way you have been part of the language like C, you have experienced a structured programming model. Somewhere in your career, you have really dealt with Java or C++. You have experienced your criteria and composition of your object-oriented programming model. These all things absolutely are one single integrated flavor within the Python. Therefore, sir, I'm basically expertise in functional programming. You can directly dive yourself into Python, learn the Python basics, and you can think like a functional programmer and you can start working. You have all the three flavors of experience previously. You are an awesome product for the industry. So Python speaks by the virtue of your expertise and your executions, what you want to do, which is unbelievable in the criteria. Very few languages have all these facilities in one single place. Another language in the market that has this kind of feature and facility is absolutely nothing but your Scala. Okay, your Scala language has this particular type of facility. Be very, very clear about that. But to learn Scala, it takes time. Why? Because Scala totally depends on the platform of your Java. So if you don't know Java, working out with Scala can look very complicated and typically difficult. Are you getting me? So Python is just not like that. Python doesn't need any other language. You need to really get integrated immediately. Then whenever you're doing with your Python, you should always understand within Python, you can directly write scripting language like style, which can be compiled to bytecode for building large applications. So like you're already a person who has been working with shell scripting standards within your Linux or Unix environment, or you have been a programmer who has been part of PLSQL like environments, writing the code in the form of block structured approach, or you are a person who has been working in languages like Perl, where you have designed the Perl scripting. In all these languages, whatever kind of experience and exposure you have shown, you can just take that advantage here, where you can design the Python code as scripts, save them, and you can directly give it to your interpreter. Your interpreter will convert them automatically into bytecode. And trust me, using scripting standards also, you can design large applications. So what I'm saying is, sir, I'm a Linux shell script programmer previously. Will it becomes easy for me to learn my Python? See, Python has its own syntax, its keywords and everything. But the idea of your scripting, the idea of the scripting standards, what you have developed, basically makes you work for your Python more easily. Means you don't need to really think like how I need to do scripting here. That's how you have some flavor of programming previously with you. With that particular flavor, you can directly make yourself do the constructs very effectively. Am I clear with you? Now, whenever you are trying to work with your Python, Python technically provides you certain kinds of data type advantages also. The first thing that's beauty of Python is it provides high level dynamic data types. High level dynamic data types means what? Normally, in your language like C or C++ or Java, or even if you take your PLSQL like experience, let us say, our experience is always what? Declare a variable and definitely associate that particular variable to a data type that is defined by that particular program or programming language. And then on that variable, we will assign the data where that particular data should be exactly according to the data type what you have declared. Do you agree with me? Means if I'm just trying to speak upon the process in a very fundamental way, what I mean is this. See, if suppose say like you're working in C language or C++, or Java. Okay, in any of these particular languages, whenever you're working, the rule very specifically says that you should first type the data type, and then you have to give the corresponding variable name. Are you getting me? And after that particular variable is located and identified within your particular select system, when you're compiling and executing the code, then you have to always give the data to this as per that particular value that is expected. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me? Now, you should understand very clearly what is happening in this entire process. We are saying that in this line, we are saying that identify a memory location where the values in property and behavior of integers can be stored in reference of a programmer allocated name employee number. So you're first registering a memory with a name called as employee number, and you're telling very clearly through the compiler that this memory location will always contain only the values that will have the behavior of the integer. Am I clear with you? And throughout the life of that memory location, catch my words carefully, throughout the life of that memory location, only integers can be adaptable. Do you agree with me? Means we are fixing this memory location, in such a way that it is going to adapt only the value to the behaviors and properties of the integers. So in general languages, what is happening is the programming language is freezing the memory. Okay, the programming language is freezing the memory for only the values of integer throughout its scope. Hence, this variable with respect to that memory location cannot handle any other type of data value. Okay, any other type of data value you cannot use. Are you getting me? So that's how we have been working in all the constructive languages. Means your data type of the language, be very clear, your data type of the language is dominating the type of the value what you should always keep in that particular memory location. But let us take the general computing science architecture, okay? If you're taking general computer architecture, I want one answer from you. Memory can store or it has the ability to store any type of data of any format in general to that memory segment in conformation to the architectural state of the platform. Am I correct? Do you agree with my words? So did your RAM, actually we are storing the data in the RAM. Do you agree with me? Come on, you should be responsive. Now, when you have designed your RAM or when you have manufactured your RAM, now I don't think we have manufactured RAM like, I don't think you're going and purchasing RAM in the market saying that you please give me 1 GB of integer RAM, 5 GB of floating point RAM, and please give me 10 GB of string RAM. I don't think you're purchasing anything like this. Am I correct? So we have a RAM, that's all. Okay, we don't take RAM by anything with a criteria. Please switch off your videos. So the architectural state of RAM is for any data. Do you agree with me? But you just watch what a kind of blunder we are doing when we are working with the old languages. We are declaring a variable which is representing the memory location, where that memory location can handle any type of data, but we are fixing it for only that value of that property of that behavior called as integer throughout the scope of that particular variable. So whenever we are trying to work out with another kind of data, this variable cannot be used. Am I correct? This variable cannot be used. Means dereferencing this variable is not happening. So we have to leave the scope of the variable. After leaving the scope of the variable and it is no more existing, then reallocate once again with another name. See, this variable with the same name with another data type. Means second time redeclaration has to be done. Do you agree with me? So I'm not saying that these are all blunders, but see, we are not using the architecture with the exact polymorphism that architecture can provide us. The dynamism of the architecture is lost because of this kind of data type declarations. Am I correct? Is it not the same thing? Is it not the same thing? Maybe the declaration style is different. The declaration style is different. But for people who are coming from the databases, don't you think that maybe you're saying declare and you're saying something like v underscore employee number and you said number of 4. Now the only thing is your variable is first and data type is next. In your C, C++ and Java, data type is first, variable is next. But in both the cases, don't you think that the architecture is working in the similar kind of style only? Yes or no? In PLSQL like environments also, are we not freezing? You're freezing that for that particular data type. Do you agree with me? So language wise, the syntax could have changed in declaration, but the internal concept of the variable management is same at the architecture level of the memory. Am I correct? But I don't think for this kind of criteria, computers have been developed. So the general computer architecture, we have to first understand. So you should understand one point very carefully. The memory architecture of the computer is designed to hold any pattern of the data to that address segment which can be associated to the binary standard with fixed boundary of the data represented between the starting address and the ending address. Do you agree with me? Your RAM is designed for any kind of data that is in the form of binary format, which is fixed in the boundary of the starting to ending address. So when my memory is always getting ready to take any data value, when my memory is trying to get ready for any data value, and as a programmer through that programming language, I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming the inventors of the programming languages who have invented those languages. They have designed the programming language in such a way that your value in the real time, catch my words carefully, your value in the real time, they have been freezing it to follow a particular memory location with the name of the variable, always working for a particular data type only. Are you getting me? Always working for a particular data type only. Okay, all these years, sir, we did not have any problem for so many number of years. Yes, we did not have. Why? Because we designed our applications. Catch my words carefully. We designed our applications also in such a way that we made the end user to enter only that data that is expected in the business by that format only. Am I correct? Means I gave my end user instructions in the front end. I gave my end user instructions in the front end that I will give you one form. In this particular form, catch me very carefully, we are designing some particular form like this, and we told the end user that in this particular form, gentlemen, you have to put only employee number, where that data will be only of number form. We restricted with all validations that it can take only numbers. Didn't we do that? Front end validations and middle layer validations according to what we are expecting as data? Yes or no? Means we developed every technology till now. We have developed every technology till now in such a way that as a programmer in my programming language, for that variable, whatever data type I declared relevant to that data type only, the middle layer programmers, the front end programmers, the UI designers, everybody should work in that confirmation only. Can anybody work against to the confirmation of the actual person who is creating that structure? No. But I think the world is changing. The world is changing very seriously. We are not saying that application type data is not going to come, but the world is changing so dynamically that today we will collect the data from anywhere. There is no restriction and limitation for the collection of the data from any particular area. Everything in the world is data today. So when everything is a data in the world today, what kind of data the end user will give, how you can control it now? What kind of data the end user should give, how you can control it? See, long back, suppose say like we designed one form, okay? We designed one form long back, asking one kind of data, man, okay? Something like we said, enter your emotion, which is currently there, okay? We are trying to collect some data now. So we are saying, please enter your emotion now. Now, when we said, please enter your emotion, what did we do? Long back, we gave one particular drop down, and in this drop down, we gave the data. We gave the data happy, then not happy, sad. In this way, we gave something, and user can select only this data. Do you agree with me? Why did we do this? We technically know that our data type declared in the backend is string. Yes or no? where my storage architecture is designed, in that storage architecture, I have used only a string data type. Now, one user said like, what is this criteria of happy, not happy, sad? Now, I just want to, if I'm happy, I want to show you how much I am happy. If I am sad, I want to show you how much I am sad. If I am not happy, how much I am not happy. Means I want to give the intent, I want to give the intensity of my particular emotion also. I don't want to give emotion, I want to give the intensity of the emotion. Don't you think that on this particular construct only, today in the markets, we are having something what you call as smileys? Now you will give what data type for this now? Which is smiley, what the people will pick up, how you know? And I think we have something called thumbs up, thumbs down, so many things are there. So try to understand the way the world is trying to work out. So we have to design the memory, we have to design the memory in such a way that your memory can have that dynamism. Am I clear with you? Your memory can have that dynamism. Because of this kind of data type declarations, we are not saying that our memory dynamics are lost. I'm not denying that, okay? Because of this declaration, I'm not saying that we have lost the dynamics of the memory. But what I'm saying is we are losing the ability of the dynamics of the memory. Because of that, we have to declare more variables and we have to write more programming. Am I clear with you? So now the current trend is what? The current trend of the programming languages is, if you take the latest trending languages, what is the latest trending languages are following now? What they are saying is, you declare the data type, you declare the variable, okay, because memory should be located somewhere. Now address end user cannot understand, so you declare the name of the variable, you assign the value, you directly give the value. Now taking this particular value that is given to this location, now from the architecture of the programming language, okay, from the architecture of the programming language, identified properties and behaviors. The interpreter or the compiler will parse the data value that is given by the developer, by the end user, okay, and then it confirms the proper data type that is suitable to that variable in the generic architecture of the system, okay, generic architecture of the system. So hence we can say that the language is associating the variable with the exact data type that is suitable as per the value in that situation. In that situation, as per that value, that variable will get that data type. Situation is changing, value is changing, data type is automatically changing. Am I changing my variable? No. Because you're not changing the variable every time, and the variable is getting adjusted to the data type as per the situation of the value what you're having, my system speed increases or decreases? Come on. My speed of the operations increase or decreases? Increases. First time it may take, no doubt, some extra time to understand this allocation and everything. After that, only the reference is changing. Are you getting me? Memory allocation is not taking place, only the reference is changing. What a beautiful architecture. So the trending languages like Python and R like technologies, Scala like implementations, they will follow this construct today. Means you give the value, I will decide the data type. Because I'm deciding the data type as per the value what you are giving me, 150%, the memory location will never fail in executing your particular value. If that value what you gave is relevant to the behavior of that particular class to which that memory is allocated, runtime failures will not take place, because we are deciding all the data types only at runtime or design time. Come on. We are deciding the data types at runtime or design time. Runtime. Because you're deciding the data types at runtime as per the value, don't you think that you can always avoid the runtime errors and bugs that could be arising out of that particular data? In these particular languages, you're fixing the data type only at the time of declaration, yes or no? Because of that, if any runtime changes are happening, the system fails automatically. Am I clear? So exception management is difficult here. Exception management is automated here. Your exception management is fundamentally automated here. No doubt there are some limitations. I'm not denying it. But major part of the advantages we have to look into. We have to look into major part of advantages. Am I clear with you? Can you give me any language is having this kind of ability from older generation construction? Did you find any language that is having the same kind of ability? People have been working in shell scripting of Linux. Your shell script has the same kind of ability, yes or no? When you're declaring variables in shell scripting, you don't declare any data types. I don't know how many people sitting on the other side, you are having that shell scripting knowledge. So these are not new things, man. These are not new things, okay? Certain technologies have been following this. But today they are becoming trending. You just understand when we look into one feature, how deep we should go and look into it. High level dynamic data types. Are you understanding the concept? Now, once we said high level dynamic data types are there, 150% it is checking the dynamic state with the types now. So it's suppose dynamic type checking means exactly at that situation of the second, whatever value you give, according to that value, the type checking will be done, the corresponding class will be associated and application will complete. Am I clear with you? So this dynamism in the type checking makes Python really beautiful. Python has automatic garbage collection standards like your Java, but don't take the garbage collection of Python is in the same standards of Java. Okay, in Java you have something called as a garbage collector, which is one thread that will be running continuously once your application begins, and then it will be going on running in one circular queue. Okay, but Python is not like that. Python's garbage collection standards are different from Java, but concept is same. Am I clear with you? By concept and principle they are same, but by execution and standards of implementation they are not same. But Python never keeps any of the data hanging in the memory at any point of time. Once the scope of that value and the reference to that value is lost, that value is automatically eliminated and the memory cleaning will be done. Python has very high level easiest integration standards. Okay, it has high level easiest integration standards where people think that in Python, when we write the code, it is only to the syntactical status of Python. No, you have already designed any modules which are operating effectively in C language. You can directly integrate your particular Python to your C language modules. Means your C language modules can be integrated into Python and they will work. So because of this, if suppose I'm having some application, whenever you're working with the process, technically when you're implementing it, any older technology that I've developed and it is working effectively and fundamentally too good, do I need to leave the technology of that C language implementation and redevelop everything in Python? Is it necessary? Definitely not. I can integrate that directly into my particular Python. The same way you can integrate C++ modules also. Am I clear with you? You can go with all your COM module, what you have developed, any component object modules you have developed, you can directly pull them into your particular Python with interfacing and integration. You can integrate ActiveX modules into your particular Python. Any kind of distributed computing modules you have developed in Corba, those Corba distributed computing modules also can be integrated into Python directly. You can directly integrate any Java module into Python. And least but not the last, you can even integrate your Scala modules into Python. So Python is providing absolutely every language by its integrated state to get into the criteria without damaging that interface now. The only thing is you need to identify the proper packages and the connectors and you can start working with it. Are you catching my point? So Python is not just like a ordinary language. When you come along with Python into the industry, the expectation standards within the industry, I want you to really cross verify. How many features you can speak like this? Python can provide you multi-programming architecture. It can provide you multi-processing architecture. It can provide you parallel processing implementations. It can provide you multi-threading implementations, what any language which is there like C++, VC++, and Java can provide you. Python can help you in developing network programming. Python with all its integrated packages that are existing can give you wonderful support for your web application development in internet-oriented programming. Python can be taken into the criteria of the network security programming. What not you can do with Python? Python is a very great choice currently in the market for developing the gaming applications. Any gaming application developed using Python is more faster and more dynamic in execution when compared with the other languages through which you develop the games. Python can give you very highly astonishing high density video integrated architectures. It can manage the audio, video, and any kind of images very effectively. So Python can provide you digital image processing and digital signal processing architectures in a very effective way. Therefore, when you deal with Python, learning core Python is different. Making your Python to go into an application oriented implementation is different. Many times people ask me, now, are you dealing with Python with the data science? See, Python as a core, you're not clear. If I tell you I'm dealing with data science in Python, believing is your problem. Python can be applied everywhere. You could have taken a decision that you want to apply Python in data science. Data science is different. Python is different. You should know how to take a Python to the principles of data science. People are making a wrong standardization of this language, saying that Python is Spark, Python is data science, Python is this, Python is not. Python is a language, that's all. This language has all the abilities to give you any kind of solution that you're expecting through the domain of your requirement. In that area, after learning your core Python very effectively, how you can understand the other concept of that particular domain. Say like, if I tell you Python can be used in gaming. Now, first you should know the knowledge, you should have the idea of what is gaming requirements. After knowing what is a gaming domain requirements, then after that you will try to apply your association to your Python as which features that can support you into the gaming. Make a proper travel by this language, else you'll always land up with a biggest confusion finally, like how I should use my Python. Am I clear with you? Using Python, sir, what I can do? First, after you learn your Python with all its standardizations, then you should take a decision by which domain you want to apply your Python. Python can be a wonderful tool with respect to the criteria and composition of the virtual reality, augmented reality. Chalapati, Python has more than 5,000 different libraries and packages. We will pick up the total course in such a way that relevant to that particular topic, any influencing package is there, that package I will integrate. Teaching a package is not a problem. I'll teach you the package for say like managing arrays. What will happen without that package also you can design arrays in Python. That's what I'm saying. You should take anything as a scenario, and in that scenario you need which packages you have to check. Because you learned a package, nothing will happen. In your problem to the solution, when you're making a preparation of this problem to get implemented as a solution, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Now in step 1, which particular dependencies I need? In step 2, what dependencies I need? So these dependencies you have to decide as per your requirement of your solution and the problem you have taken. You cannot just say like, I will tell you, I will teach all these particular packages. Now what happens in a greatness if you just know the packages when you don't take them into the problem solution approach? When I complete my entire course, you are picking up the course with the approach and the methodology what I am putting in. If you take a problem and you try to get into the solution, you will automatically start moving with every step integrated from the problem to solution with respect to your confidence of what you have learned through the course. In this process, whichever modules, whichever packages are essential, when I pick up any issue of implementation, I'll be going on adding them. Okay. Therefore, it will be exaggeration if I say that I will teach you all data science modules. I will introduce all the data science modules. That's okay. But you don't know anything about data science. What great wonder will happen? Tell me. So we will learn Python in such a way that in future, if you are planning for data science, trust me, you will work 80% better than anybody who is joining data science without knowing Python. Am I clear with you? So our entire discussion will be in such a way that you are getting into any project of any type in real time, you can start working with your Python. Okay, in that particular approach, I'll take you. So fixing you into a specific area and telling you this is the only thing you can do is wrong, I hope so, because your career opens with which particular type of avenue, who can say? So the final goal of our entire course is, after you complete this course, you got an opportunity and you're kept into any project of any domain without depending on anybody, you can start working confidently to get the solutions. Okay, that's how we will be moving. So after this course, you take any decision. So you want to become a gaming programmer, you want to become a digital signal processing programmer, you want to become a network programmer, you want to become a cyber security expert, you want to become a data science guy, you want to get into machine learning, you want to be part of big data. You just go and enter into it. You need to only understand the concepts, what they are telling you in those domains, and your ideas from your Python will sync and you can start writing your code. Okay. So that's the major agenda. Now for all this, I think Python should be loaded on your machines. I hope so. So when you want to run your Python can be run in multiple different number of ways from the Python prompt. Okay. These command line options and everything, you just don't get worried now. Okay. We can run Python as an interactive interpreter. You can start your Python from any of your DOS, Unix, or any other kind of systems where it provides you an integration. You can run Python as a command line interpreter, or you can even write the constructs as shells. So if you want to really start Python in your machine, if it is existing, you just need to get on your command line option there and type Python at the command line or command prompt, and your Python environment will start. Okay. So generally, any operating system you take it, that doesn't matter. You'll just try to get through your command line and you enter your criteria of the command for starting your Python, and you start writing your statements, and individual statements can get executed. You want all the statements together to be executed and implemented. Then you will go with the construct and composition of writing that as a script, and you try to pack it in the form of .py extension, which is basically nothing but a Python module. Am I clear with you? Anyhow, I'll show you all these things. Just don't get worried now. Or you can even get into an integrated development environment. There are many number of IDEs that are provided in the world. Okay, you can install any. Many people ask me, sir, I want to work with PyCharm, I want to work with Anaconda, I want to work with. See, when you don't know your core Python and what it can do, what exactly your IDE can do now. IDEs are crazy, man. Okay. Python comes with its own default IDE called as idle. I always suggest my students not to work with any IDE directly, because if you work with your IDEs, you'll never know the structure of your project. Core integrations and implementations you cannot do, because in the IDE everything is automated. You'll only sit and write your code, that's all. Now that really damages you when you get into your projects and you want to work at the core levels. What is a guarantee you practiced Python in one IDE? What is a guarantee another company should provide you the same IDE? Because there are 1,000+ IDEs for Python. So learn how you can write programming in the interactive interpreters very properly, or like scripts. Then you can work with any IDE. You can run your Python from graphical user interfaces that are provided in the markets. Maybe one of the best thing you can see in the market with high demand is nothing but your PyCharm. And if you're thinking of doing data science with machine learning, Anaconda. You have some other kind of things like Jupyter Notebook is there. Different people use different IDEs, man. Okay. You have Python integrations today, even for your Eclipse, Maven, like constructs also can be integrated and they can work. So what IDE you pick up, that's up to you. But I always suggest you don't work in IDEs when you're learning core application. Okay. When you're learning with core language, don't try to use IDEs. You'll kill your efficiency and expertise. IDE should be taken into your hands after you feel that the structure of the Python programming approach is very clear to me. So you can always configure your Python to any of the open source or commercial IDEs that are available in the market to make your programming easier. The only advantage of IDEs is what? They will help you in organizing the application code very easily. They will help you in organizing your application code very easily. Okay. Am I clear with you? Therefore, you just trust me and you come along with me. The final goal, what we are keeping in front of us as an agenda is, can we directly operate and write the programming on our own confidently to the problem that is described? Me writing the programming is not important. My goal is finally, can you write the program with your confidence and feel that you can be a wonderful programmer even if you are an IT or non-IT personality. That's the agenda, man. Okay. Only time can tell us how best we can do all these things. Few more days, you have to keep faith and trust on me. After that, you will automatically start moving along with me by the frequency. Don't worry. Keeping you into a confident position is my job. Okay, you are giving me that responsibility, man. I will do it. You don't worry. Trust me. So for all this to happen, we should install Python. Okay. So that's where I'm going to just dedicate one session. That is tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be dedicating the session only for how to install Python. It's not rocket science. Long back it was very complicated. Nowadays it's very simple. Any system you're having, keep it ready and you can start working out with your Python very effectively. Okay. So let us see in the next 24 hours what is waiting for us. In the starting of the session, for all those students who have been wishing me, thanks a lot for your wishes and the love you have been sharing with me, man. Okay. Thank you very much for that birthday wishes, what you have given me. Okay. Your all blessings will make me move further. I hope so. And with that, we will meet once again tomorrow. I'm signing off from this side. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself. Thank you very much.